Hello everyone, it's Chris again. This time I decided to make a video where I'm going to be self-speaking mostly, maybe with a little bit of whispering, but I'm mostly going to be speaking in a voice more or less like this. And obviously today I'm going to be speaking, or tonight I'm going to be speaking in English, just because I'm not actually really planning this video. This is mostly a mic test video, not because I got a new mic, but because I found that in my hometown, in my house, in my parents' house, I can make videos very easily because it's very quiet. My neighborhood is extremely, well, it's not extremely rural, but it's mostly rural, and there aren't many sounds other than the occasional car going by, which I can of course get rid of just by going and recording in my basement. But I found that here in Paris, it's extremely hard in my singular room, because I only have one room that's actually mine. I can't really do anything to make it more quiet. So it's been a little difficult to record videos in a way that I'm satisfied with. So the video I put out just the other day in French had a lot of sounds that drove me absolutely bonkers. In terms of just little noises I could hear people talking in the hall, or I could hear doors being shut. I actually had to cut out an enormous part because someone literally slammed a door like 4 times. So if the audio fades out and comes back in unexpectedly in this video, that might come to pass. So you have probably already noticed, since we're over 2 minutes into this video already, that there is no video. And the reason for that is quite simple. My other setup, where I can easily record myself, requires me to sit at my desk. However, my desk is made of old wood, and that's what the computer has to sit on, and my microphone has to sit on, and anything I'm going to be picking up or setting down has to sit on. And I'm also sitting in a chair, which is made of creaky old wood, on a floor made of creaky old wood. And I'm directly beside a window made of creaky old wood. And so everything makes a ton of noise that's not very pleasant to the ears. And it's nearly impossible for me to not make everything creak. And sometimes the creaking wood noises are very nice. But other times, and honestly most of the time, they're extremely abrasive in the videos, just because it happens very close to the microphone, and especially when it's the desk. When I pick up an object from the desk, it usually kind of sticks a little bit just because of the way the desk was painted. It wasn't stained, it was like painted. And so that sound kind of, instead of going through the air and getting captured by the microphone's, normal part, it kind of, the vibrations travel through the wood and through the base of my microphone because I don't have a mic stand. So it gets, the microphone picks it up the wrong way, and it's an extremely bad quality sound that I can hear very often. And it also happens if I'm wearing my headphones, because I can plug my headphones into this mic and kind of hear what you're hearing. But then they tap around, and they'll tap the side of the microphone, or they'll tap the desk or something like that, and you can hear this. It's like the sound of when you plug headphones into a headphone jack, like the sound you can hear of it's really hard to explain, but like white noise almost, but it's like really harsh and sharp and short. It's like that kind of noise, which I'm sure you've been able to notice. So, right now I'm actually sitting on my bed across the room with my microphone on a separate thing from the bed so that I don't have to touch it and I don't have to touch what it's sitting on. So you shouldn't have to hear that very low quality, thuddy noise. So I don't really have a ton planned, but I'm still trying to work on the balance between noises, which you're going to start to hear. Maybe a little bit more in your right ear than your left ear. The balance between noises and speaking. In the future, I might try to do noise-only videos. And I might try to do speaking-only videos because I know I'm usually tapping something. But that's because I always fiddle. I always have something to fiddle with in my hands. I particularly try to purchase keychains and things like that are fiddleable to create a mo. Like, oh my god, I did it again. You would not believe the number of times I say mo with an American accent as if I'm talking about a person named Mo. But my brain is thinking M-O-T, the French word mot, which is, of course, the translation of the English word word. And I don't understand why that happens. And I'm a linguistics major, and it's driving me up the wall. I have been using the driving me and then some outdated phrase a bit in this video, haven't I? So anyway. The thing I'm tapping right now is an object I don't really have to use as much anymore. That's currently, hopefully, moving in front of you a little bit and maybe over a little more in your left ear than your right ear. And this object that I don't have to use anymore is because I got a new computer, as I made a quick update video about that. So my old computer pretty much completely died. Almost every individual part of it that could die did. But one of the first things that went several months ago was the keyboard. And so in November, maybe, or October of 2014, I had to purchase a keyboard so that I could type longer essays. Because some of my keys stuck or didn't work, and while it's fine for like tweeting or Facebook or getting on YouTube or Tumblr, that semester and almost right around when my computer started messing up, I had to write a paper for a syntax course I took, which was on WH question formation in American Sign Language, with particular emphasis on the right versus left branching analysis of CP structures. And even if you've studied syntax formally, some of that might have still been a little weird, but I think undergrad syntax 1 probably would get you through that title. And it would get you through that paper too. This was just my second syntax course as an undergrad, so nothing too wildly inaccessible for students, but definitely I get the glazed over look response whenever I explain that. But yeah, so I had to type that paper up, so I needed a keyboard. So I'm tapping on the Bluetooth keyboard box, which I've had to carry around with me for months, from November to early March when my computer finally went kaput. So that paper was no small thing. I had to format it several different ways, double spaced and single space, and I also did it all in LaTeX, however you want to pronounce it, LATEX, which I know a lot of mathematicians and people in mathematics use to format formulae, but it is also really good for organizing linguistic data, creating tree diagrams of sentence analyses, and bracket notation, and a couple of other linguistic things, glossing. There's an ASL glossing. What are they called? It's like a library, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, so the long and short of it is, basically, typing a lot means I needed a keyboard that actually functioned. So, since you can't see, I'll kind of describe that right now. I'm opening the box, and it is an Apple Bluetooth keyboard. I'm not wholly dedicated to the Church of Apple. I do have a Nexus tablet. However, I do have a MacBook as my computer, so I just didn't want to get an electronic that may or may not work with it, electronic device, even if it was cheaper. So, plus I think my mom was feeling bad for me that weekend because I think she bought the keyboard for me, actually. Because my mom is very sweet. I love my mom very much. So you can't see this at all. I wish there was like a low-key camera on me though, because I'm like presenting this to where a camera would be, even though I'm just looking at a microphone and a radiator. So I have with me the Apple wireless keyboard instruction manual, which I never opened once. Nope, I lied. I had to open it to figure out how to get to the battery compartment. So this has been opened. I just resealed it, apparently. But I absolutely love the sound the plastic makes when you bend it. Because it's not too crinkly, that it just sounds like noise. You can hear individual specific crinkles, if that makes sense. Also sounds very nice if you do a little sticky fingers with it. Another really good benefit of not recording myself, other from the fact that my hair can look like an absolute mess, is that I can 100% just watch my levels in Audacity as I record this. And I can see when it's in your left ear. Or when it's relatively balanced, or when it's in your right ear. I've had a couple of people ask, actually, either in comments or in messages. And feel free to send me both comments and messages, by the way. I, of course, read everyone and respond to as many as I can that I haven't responded to publicly a bunch of times already. And sometimes it's kind of hard to just say like things 30 times. It kind of seems a little self-serving. But if you do ask any questions, of course, I'll try to respond to them. And one I've gotten a lot has been, what kind of microphone do I use? Because in some of my videos, there's a definite panning effect, like we've got here, where I can actually kind of try to get between your right ear and your left ear and like differentiate. It's not quite ear to ear, like with the 3DO mics that a lot of really good ASMR artists have been using, that I highly recommend you check out, especially if you really love the ear to ear trigger. But if you're just looking into this as more of a hobby like I do, or it's just kind of something for fun, just to kind of explore sounds, then I definitely recommend a Blue microphone. I use the Blue Yeti. Blue is the name of the company, and the Yeti is my model. They also have the Snowball, which I know is relatively popular among starting out Let's Players on YouTube, because it's pretty affordable, but it has a pretty good cardioid, I think it's cardioid style. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's some cars outside driving around. God knows why at 20 minutes to 1 a.m. Yes, I'm up late. I'm always up late. So I believe the Snowball has a cardioid style mode. I don't actually know for sure though, because I've never had one. But I do know it's just generally pretty good quality for voiceovers. However, I got an amazing deal on Amazon. I got this microphone and some knitting needles, interchangeable knitting needles, sizes, a wide range of sizes. I think it was like US 5 to 13 or 15. And both of those things together, I don't know how much they would usually cost, but I'm pretty sure I paid $30 for both, which is ridiculous, because I had like Amazon credit and some other deal I can't remember that didn't conflict with the Amazon credit, which is nice. So I was really lucky. But this microphone has 4 modes. So it has the cardioid mode I just mentioned, which kind of, it's like a shaped thing that apparently is really good for voiceovers or podcasts. And then there's like the standard mono mode, and then there's a mode that's like designed for dialogue, I think, where it's like you put it in between 2 people when you're doing an interview. I've never really used that one. And then there's the stereo mode, where it treats each side of the microphone as a different channel. However, it's not actually 2 separate microphones, and there's not really any distance between the 2 microphones. So it's actually impossible for you to only have okay, not actually impossible, but practically impossible for you to have a sound only in one ear. So it'll sound louder or clearer in one ear, but the other side of the microphone will easily pick up the sound because it's less than 3 inches away. But in terms of a panning effect, it's not really any editing in post to get it to do it, so I definitely recommend it if you're just looking into this as a hobby like I do, because actually personally I, for some reason, am triggered way more by the exact same sounds when I'm listening to a recording of them. So I'm not particularly triggered by my own voice, of course, because it's like, no one likes listening to themselves recorded. However, I have, on more than one occasion, just created a sound file for myself with this microphone. And for some reason, it was so much more relaxing to listen to little paper crinkles and book tapping and page flipping in an MP3 format than it was to do it in real life beside my own ear. And I don't know why. Of course, the opposite is true with more physical things. I think a lot of people who get triggered by role plays where people are role playing brushing your hair or brush their own hair, it reminds people of others playing with their own hair, and that's something that I've loved my entire life. I have very strong memories of nap time in kindergarten, where my mat was perpendicular to a girl, where our heads were fairly near, and she would always play with my hair for whatever reason. Kindergartners are weird. And I guess it was the kind of thing where technically, according to the rules of the classroom, I should have told on her, tattled to the teacher. But it was nap time, and her playing with my hair was the most relaxing part of my little 5-year-old day. So I certainly have pretty strong memories of that. I don't know exactly how I'm going to just edit that, but I paused and kind of redid a little bit because I think someone revved an engine on the street, kind of catty corner from my window. My window actually looks out onto a little courtyard where a florist grows a lot of flowers. It's very beautiful. It's very, I don't know. It's just that romantic Parisian ideal, I suppose, where you wake up every morning and walk down your Haussmannian style apartment building down to a courtyard of blooming flowers that all smell beautiful. And it was a really wonderful surprise the first couple of weeks when I wasn't used to it at all. Just to have that beautiful smell every single morning without me having to do anything at all, or without having to pay for any flowers. I got to wake up to some extremely beautiful sights, and I still do. And I know I'm definitely going to miss that when I move out. I don't even want to think about moving out right now. But yeah, I feel like I might have been in the middle of a thought, but I kind of got distracted. Alright, so I've put the instruction manual away, which I played with for quite some time. Because, again, I really love crinkles. I think I was in the middle of saying something about how I create audio files for myself. I don't know. Anyway, so now I've of course got the keyboard itself. It's powered off right now, so I don't accidentally start typing on my computer, which would not be good. But just stroking my hand down over the top, not even pressing any of the keys. You can just hear this very slight plasticky sound of the keys moving the tiniest bit. Their little hooking plastic spring mechanisms within clicking the littlest bit. Just with the tiniest amount of pressure. And then if I move over to slightly. Still not pressing the keys. Kind of sounds a bit like the soft speaking equivalent of typing. Where you've got the sound of my finger lightly bumping against the hard plastic of each key. But without the thunking sound or the clacking, I guess. It's funny, I've actually really gotten used to the sound of this keyboard, kind of, because this keyboard's made of the same like aluminum style that the unibody MacBooks are made in. The aluminum unibody ones. I sound like a commercial. But those two metals are not, the metal is not meant to rub against itself. Obviously, in normal circumstances, it's not really rubbing against itself ever. But to make, since it's a laptop and it wasn't a desktop, because these keyboards are really made for desktops, I set the keyboard on top of the keyboard on my old computer. And I kind of really got used to the sound of the metal sliding against it. And I'm not going to imitate that sound because it's not a pleasant sound, as you can imagine. But I did certainly grow wearisomely used to that kind of sound. Alright, I think they're back home now. Someone just had some trouble with their door. Again, it feels like this apartment is always making noises. There's actually been a horrible development on that front. This past week, maybe a week and a half, someone has been drilling or something of that nature in the building. And I literally hear it from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. with an hour break for lunch. Very French. And it is one of the most unbearably grating sounds I've ever had to subject myself to or be subjected to. It's utterly infuriating because I can't do anything about it. But, yep, so it usually wakes me up on the days I'm allowed to sleep in when I don't have an early class. The only people that live here are my host family on the second floor, another host family with other students from my university on the 5th floor, the florists who live on either the 3rd, the 4th, or the 1st floor. And I know that sounds weird, but I hear them everywhere, and I know of them because I see them at the florist shop because it's right beside this building. And then, of course, there's the super, the guardian, concierge, whatever word you want to use. I think I really use gardien in French, but I guess super would be the best translation. And she lives on the ground floor. So there's not a lot of people in this building. I should probably know them all by name, but I actually don't. But I'd say there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 adults who live here that are French, and maybe, I don't think the florists have any children that are living with them. Florist, I'm so messed up. Florist in English, florist. And then there are 3 NYU students that live here. I think that's it. So it's not a lot of people for an entire building. And what's more is I live in one of the Chambre de Bonne, which is like the old housemaid's rooms, I guess. And so I have a separate staircase to my room. And so me and one other person actually have to use that staircase, and anyone else that uses it is using it by choice. Usually because they just went grocery shopping, and all of these doors connect to a chambre de bonne and the kitchen. Strong historical message there. I really hope that the balance is okay. According to the levels, from what I can see, my speaking voice should be about as loud, if not louder, than my small tapping noises. If you've never had a need to encounter one of these Bluetooth keyboards, as most laptop users, and of course most PC users or non-Mac users, obviously don't really have a need to interact with these, so you might not be familiar with them, and I can't really show you right now, but so the way it is made is that it's kind of like this thin sheet. Well, sheet's the wrong word, but maybe 3/4 of a centimeter thick, just a random guess, piece of aluminum, and that stretches across, and at the top it kind of is this little circle that gives you the incline to type on when you put it on a table. But on the back, under the metal, is a plastic encasement, not metal. And I guess it kind of surrounds some of the electronic components. The circular bit I mentioned is where the batteries go. I believe it takes AA's. And it's also on the other side from the battery access is the power button. And I would assume that the Bluetooth mechanism is also in this thicker part, just so they don't have to worry about flattening it out or making it small, because, well, I guess I don't really know anything about Bluetooth technology. But I would assume that's the easiest place for it to fit, because there's not really much else to it. It's funny how extremely clean this keyboard is, since I haven't had it very long. And I didn't even use it every day, because, as I said, for day-to-day stuff, like just looking up a video on YouTube or posting a Facebook status, it really wasn't worth the effort of taking out a separate keyboard and making the Bluetooth work, turning it on, and then waiting for it to connect, which usually takes about 3 seconds. So, before all of that, I would usually just, get through the pain of typing with maybe everything from 0p:, period, alt, from that, like, row to the right was all sticky. The shift key didn't really move on that side. The enter key was extremely difficult to make function. The backspace was actually okay, and the arrow keys were unusable, more or less, which was really frustrating for like Flash games, because I still play some old Flash games when I'm bored, but it didn't really matter for the other main games I play. The other big movement-based game I play is probably Minecraft, which is WASD. able to use both shift keys and not being able to hit enter easily. Also affected the eject key, which I didn't really use ever. And I don't miss not having a CD drive. I don't miss having a CD drive, rather. It affected the volume keys. And it affected the play button, which is F8 on a Mac usually, I believe. I say I believe, and I'm staring at two Mac keyboards, so I know. It's like the play pause button. And the weird thing about how it was messed up is that sometimes I would like run my hands over the keyboard, the one that's broken, not this one. And I guess the slightest pressure on the F8 key, because it was so stiff, would activate the key or something. I don't know. But my iTunes would just start up randomly all the time. And it could have been the F9 key, which is the skip. I just don't know if that one starts iTunes, but I know the play one does. It happened all the time, and it drove me nuts. And also, that was right when this keyboard that I'm holding was laying on top of my old computer. That's right along the row of keys that the keyboard would rest along. That sentence was poorly constructed, I'm very sorry. But basically, the long and short of it is that this keyboard would also hit that key in the exact same way. And so even when I was using my special extra keyboard, it would still annoy me. So have you noticed that when I'm not speaking directly with someone else, my English is a little muddled right now? It's a really weird experience to have trouble in English sometimes. As you heard earlier, I said mo when I meant word. And actually, when I was saying the word staircase, when I was talking about getting up to my room, I very nearly said escalier. And so it's really, really weird that I don't speak French perfectly, but it's still like, I don't want to say harming, but it's definitely reducing my level of native fluency in English. Not remarkably. This is a little exaggerated right now because I'm a little tired. I'm probably going to go to sleep after recording this and edit this another day. Especially because I don't want to post this on April Fool's Day. It's actually April Fool's right now. I might do that anyway. I don't know. It depends on if I have time to edit, but yeah, so it's really weird to experience like the most minor effects of like what feels like language attrition, where sometimes I construct a sentence in English that's just horribly formed and doesn't make sense, and it drives me nuts, and I'm like, why did I do that? Like, I can do wonderfully complicated, very poetic sentences without thinking about it normally, but just because in Paris I really only use English on the internet and when I'm speaking with certain friends at school. Really, a large number of my friends speak English at school, even though I'm in the French-only program, And in French-only classes, a lot of the time people speak in English just because it's easier for them. And it's easier for me too, but I really don't want to speak English. Just kind of, if people keep talking to you in English, you kind of just feel this pressure to not keep trying to force them to speak French. Especially, again, it's not like my French is perfect, so I also have communicative trouble in French. Not infrequently. Definitely it happens more than on a rare occasion. So it can also be frustrating for the listener of my speech to try to piece together what I mean sometimes when I get really confused. But yeah, so other than that though, obviously at every single store I go to I use French. My host family doesn't really speak English at all, so I speak French entirely when I'm when I'm here. But even like when I'm alone, I kind of I try to think to myself in French, if that makes sense. Just so, because I kind of do that slightly crazy person thing of talking to myself a lot. Or, I know a lot of people do this, but like mentally preparing myself for certain social situations by planning out a conversation, which is especially useful in a foreign language because you map out what vocabulary terms you might need. And it's really been a way for me to learn a lot of words, because when you learn a word out of necessity, it is way easier to remember. For instance, what's one that happened recently? I needed to say tourist trap, and I have encountered the word piège before, which is the word for trap. You say piège à touriste, I believe. I hope so, because that's what I put in my paper the other day. And I've encountered the verb piège before, but it was in a context where I wasn't needing it. I was just kind of passively receiving the word, or passively hearing it, or passively reading it, where context more dictated the meaning than the translation. But because I encountered the need for the word, now it's much easier for me to remember. And it's happened with a lot of words. And it's also really funny how right after you learn a word, you hear it and see it really often. For example, repère is a word you see a lot in Paris because they're on every train platform, or at least with the RER, because the RER has long trains and short trains. So they'll say, like long trains are of course the entire length of the platform, but short trains might be between repère 2 and 6 or something like that. And I didn't know what it meant at all. I just knew how to use it in the particular specific context of a train platform. And I was with my school on a trip with some professors, and we were taking a train back to Paris from Angers, which is a city in the Loire Valley, because we went to see some chateau and a fortress and an abbey. And so when we were on the train back, or before we got on the train back, we were standing on the platform waiting for it to arrive. And I saw the word, and I just thought to kind of ask them. I was like, how would you translate, or how would you define repère? Because I only know it in this very, very particular context, and I feel like it's not a train-only word, which of course it isn't. And we were, of course, just speaking in French. So the professor responded with a point of reference. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's like a landmark. And so then from there, I've been able to kind of generalize it. But then it came up 4 times today, I believe. Like, it came up in my conversation class. I saw it on the back of, like, a packet of potatoes that I was making myself for dinner. Like, all kinds of like just random locations for you to see this word. And it doesn't mean landmark with the same connotations as English landmark, because it could also work kind of like the English word anchor, I think, in a more figurative sense. So like, that's my anchor. At least that's, again, what I've kind of come to understand from context. But yeah, so learning out of context and learning out of personal necessity has really been way easier for me to remember vocabulary than the high school way of doing, like, oh, today we're going to learn all of the body parts. And then you kind of forget, like, certain ones because you learned them all at once. So, like, I know in high school I learned the word mâchoire, but I didn't remember it until I needed to use it when I was talking about a phonetic phenomenon in French. So I wouldn't have really been able to draw on the high school I learned it knowledge. The words that you kind of remember from that are the really basic ones that you're going to hear every day, like tête, or, corps, more generally body or head, or, something like that. Anyway, I believe I've rambled on a lot. I haven't spoken particularly softly in many times, and I do apologize for that. I do, of course, want this video to be relaxing, but at the same time, I'm just kind of also trying to get my microphone settings where I want them and figure out a way I can record that allows me to maintain my audio quality as well as be able to record visually and have good lighting, because the other thing is that this side of my room does not have good lighting at all. Everything's over here is extremely harsh and casts a really dark shadow. But that's about all I have for you today. I hope you liked this visualless video of just me speaking and some sounds, getting to hear, as well as I have problems in English and French. Apparently I now have problems in English, so that's great. Of course, this will go away once I get back to America in a few months, but it's still kind of funny while I'm here. I hope that in addition to you having had a great day and a great night, that you also enjoyed this video, and that you continue on to have a very restful and wonderful sleep with happy, relaxing dreams, and that you're able to just calm down at the end of the day, take some time for yourself, relax, settle, wipe your mind of any stress or any worries you have about the past or the future or the present, that you can just sit down or lay down and just